everybody, I'm Joe, and today I'm here to bring you a review of 50/50, directed by Jonathan Levine, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Seth Rogen, Anna Kendrick, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Angelica Houston. 50/50 is a movie that I've been really wanting to talk about for a while on my channel because it's honestly one of my all-time favorites in the last 10 or so years, because not a lot of people talk about this, and I'm actually kind of disappointed because this is really touching and very heartwarming and funny in all of the right ways. This movie came out about 7 years ago in 2011, so if you haven't seen this by now, I'm going to encourage you to go watch the movie before I talk about this, because I'm going to be talking about some spoilers. Not everything, but I'm going to be talking about certain moments that happen and certain moments that I just... You can't not talk about them because, you know, they're just too good to pass on. But spoiler warning if you haven't seen it by now. 50/50 tells a story of a man named Adam, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, works for a radio station in Seattle. Normal guy, living a quiet life in Seattle with his girlfriend Rachel, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, and his friend Kyle, played by Seth Rogen. And then he finds out one day, due to back pains that he's experiencing, that he has a tumor growing on his spinal cord, cancer, or as it's called, schwannoma neurofibrosarcoma.
Whoa, what the fuck is that?
And after being diagnosed with this disease, he discovers that he has a 50% chance of beating the cancer. And as the movie unfolds, it's basically him reacting to the situation and how he's trying to deal with it, and how everybody around him is trying to lend a helping hand in one way or another. At first, he's very closed off. He doesn't really want to talk about the cancer. He basically deflects by saying,
Like, would you describe what you're feeling as a kind of numbness?
No, described as fine.
Because certain patients feel
I
like...
feel great.
but truth is, deep down inside, and you can tell that he really is terrified by this, and he doesn't really know how to process it. So he has to go to chemotherapy, to counseling, to try to deal with the emotions that he's feeling. And also his friend Kyle is trying everything he can to get him to go out with all these random women and whatnot, trying to tell him that his girlfriend is not the ideal girlfriend that he wants, and also at the same time dealing with an overbearing mother who worries just constantly to the point where he doesn't even want to talk to her. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is one of my all-time favorite actors. I think the guy is amazing. He just gives it 100% everything that he's in. Angels in the Outfield, I mean, to think that he started out there and where he's at now, it's amazing, really. To 50/50, Dark Knight Rises, his brief appearance in Lincoln, and he got a lot of recognition for 500 Days of Summer, and also his performance in The Walk. The guy, I think, is a great actor, and I think he really deserves a little more recognition than he gets. You really feel for this guy as he deals with this situation. You want him to get better, and there are times where you just want to give him a big hug and give him a pat on the shoulder saying, don't worry, you're going to be okay, and it's okay to admit that you're scared. It's perfectly natural. The thing is with this movie, according to Seth Rogen, he said publicly that he experienced this with a friend. Now, the writer of this film, Will Reiser, it's actually based on his real life story. He's a friend of Seth Rogen in real life. It's a loose account of his story and how he dealt with the cancer diagnosis that he was given. So I think in a lot of ways, Seth Rogen's reactions to certain situations, probably the best way you could have done this. Now, Seth Rogen, I'm a little iffy on him. I think he's a really funny guy, but there are quite a few times where I find him really obnoxious to the point where I just want to go, dude, shut up, please. This one, he does get a little overbearing, but most of the time I think it works. And basically he's doing the Seth Rogen shtick, like, like all pot and sex jokes. But in this movie, I think it works. And he's got some of the best lines, like, do I sound like a robot? You're in Wales? You're Welsh? Are you Walish? It's unbelievable. And the way he handles the situation when he catches Rachel, Adam's girlfriend, cheating on him, and how he shows him the picture.
What I have grown to call Exhibit Whore!
And also this.
So why am I the bad guy?
Because you're his girlfriend, you cheated on him, he has cancer, you lunatic!
And I'm not even talking about the scene where Adam shaves his head with a razor, and Kyle says, and I never wash him either. It's not my... Well, watch the scene and see for yourself, because it includes a lot of language that I don't really like to include on my channel that much. It's kind of hypocritical of me since I've done it before, but whatever. But yeah, Seth Rogen, hilarious as hell. And I also really like the dynamic between Anna Kendrick and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, also known as Dr. McKay in the movie. She's a psychiatrist, well, technically not yet. She's working on her doctorate. She's 24 years old. And Adam is just not thrilled by having a, technically not a doctor, trying to help him deal with his situation. But you see, slowly and surely, there starts to form some kind of a special romantic bond between the two. It's unspoken, but you can see throughout the movie and how they slowly start to really like each other and how Adam's not really satisfied with his relationship with Rachel. And Anna Kendrick, I think, is a really good actress, and I remember at the time seeing her in this movie and thought, oh my god, the girl from Twilight? Really? But she really, really does a good job in here. And I haven't seen Up in the Air, but this was the first time where I thought, okay, Anna Kendrick, she's legit. And I know I tend to swoon over really good looking actresses in movies, but Anna Kendrick isn't exactly my kind of girl. But there are times though in this movie where I go, okay. Particularly this smile that she has right here. Anyway, I'm getting creepy here. And also, Bryce Dallas Howard. I feel so bad for her because she seems to be given this same type of characters now, where she plays like a complete, lack of a better word, a bitch. I'm sorry, but I remember at the time when this came out, it was 2011. She was in this movie, and she was also in The Help. If you've seen that movie, she is basically the Wicked Witch of the West. I mean, good God. And I feel bad for saying that because I follow her on social media. She looks like one of the nicest people on the planet, and she keeps getting these characters that are so mean or just so cruel to other people in some way. If I saw her in real life, I'd be really tempted to go... If there's one little nitpick I have with this movie, though, I wish we could have gotten just a couple more scenes with her to show her struggle with her situation of her boyfriend having cancer, because when she's caught in the act and she has to admit that she was cheating on him, she says to him, "You have no idea how hard it's been. I don't know how to do this." I wish we could have gotten one or two more scenes showing her side of the situation, but either way, I think she does a good job in the movie regardless. And it's pretty obvious she was a bad girlfriend. I'm sorry. Adam, of course, didn't want to hear that, but in reality, he had to accept it anyway. And Angelica Houston as Adam's mother, you do feel bad for her because not only does she have to deal with her son having cancer, but her husband has Alzheimer's. And I think it's perfectly summed up, like when Adam realizes that he hasn't exactly been the best son to her, when Anna Kendrick's character says,
So she's got this husband that can't talk to her and this son that won't?
whoa. As I mentioned earlier, like, it's really funny and really heartwarming. This movie has the right balance of different kinds of tones. It's very funny, but it's also very dramatic at the same time. There's a heartwarming type of feel to this movie, and director Jonathan Levine, I think, does an excellent job of maintaining the balance of all these different tones. It doesn't feel out of place. It feels just the right combination is there. I mean, the funny moments work when they're there, particularly with Seth Rogen and how he catches Rachel in the act, and all the other funny lines that he has, and the moment when he gets the dog Skeletor. I'm glad he kept the dog too in the end, because the dog didn't do anything wrong, and he needed a home anyway, plus that was like really the only good thing that we saw come out of the relationship with him and Rachel. I would have kept him too. Oh, and also some of the funny moments, like with Philip Baker Hall, who shows up in here. He's practically in everything. Like, even in the smallest cameo, he manages to make an impression.
How strong are they?
Steve wrong.
And what leads to the pot brownie scene where Adam gets high off of the pot that's in that little brownie, and he's walking around the hospital just high as a kite, and that Bee Gees song is playing. You don't know what it's like. And he passes by a gurney with a dead body in a body bag, and he laughs. To love somebody. That is horrible. Somehow it just works. I have no idea how, but it does. But also, to go into the heavier stuff, Adam for a while goes through the motions, and he's alright with it for a while, but then he starts to get worried when another guy that he meets through chemotherapy gets along with him really well, and he seems to be doing okay, but then at one point his heart stops and he dies. And he starts to think, wait a minute, I don't think I'm going to live through this. I'm probably going to die, aren't I? And he starts lashing out at Dr. McKay and gets fed up with his mom, and then when a time comes for the operation, the tumor doesn't respond to the treatment and they have to go through the surgery, getting a really skilled neurosurgeon. And if the surgery doesn't work, it's over. And it leads to the scene where he tries to drive a car for the first time, thinking that it might be his last chance, and he doesn't have a driver's license. And he drives like a madman, and at one point his friend Kyle stops the car, and Adam shoves him out of the car and screams out in agony. It gets me every time. It's like the one moment where he finally lets out all of his feelings, and he finally admits that it's not okay. and the bond between him and Catherine finally comes to a head where he says, "I wish you were my girlfriend." Oh God, it gets me every time. And a little side note, you could tell that Adam really wants a good relationship as opposed to Kyle, who's just wants to date random girls. And there is a scene where it's the last scene we see Mitch in with him and his wife. They're having a nice little moment together, and there's a look that Adam has on his face where after experiencing the breakup with Rachel, you can tell that he really wants that. He's not like Kyle. He wants a good relationship. He just doesn't want to date random women. But then later that night when he goes home and he takes Kyle to his place, he finds this book that Kyle was reading, trying to figure out how to deal with a friend who has cancer. And he realizes that, oh, Kyle actually does care. He's not just using his cancer for girls, and he's not just more concerned about being laid. He actually did care about him. So he goes through the surgery, and the surgery is successful despite the fact that he's going to have a long rehab to go through. And the movie ends about at least a few months or so after his surgery, and he's about ready to go on a date with Catherine. And all is right with the world. Probably the best way you could have ended it, because the way they ended is kind of ambiguous as to where their relationship's going to go. From where I stand, I think it does work out in the end. And I also think that this movie does have a good sense of realism to it, because I've never experienced cancer personally, knock on wood, but my Nana is a breast cancer survivor, and my grandfather is also a prostate cancer survivor. So I know what it's like to have that experience and to worry that your loved one or you might not be able to survive when you have cancer. And to be honest, when I think about cancer, it scares the ever-living out of me, and I really hope to God that I don't get it. And it's a very touchy subject. And I know that some people might find this kind of not really appropriate since there's some sex jokes in here and because Seth Rogen is just being Seth Rogen. But I think in just the right ways, it's very appropriate. And I think it's a very believable way on how someone would respond to a situation. Maybe not exactly the way Seth Rogen would respond, because he's more blunt than other people are. But he does it in a way where I'm like, don't worry, buddy, you're gonna be just fine. Just hang in there. All in all, I think 50-50 is a great movie and one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, I said it. I think it's great. If you haven't seen it by now, give it a watch. So what are you guys' thoughts on 50-50? Let me know in the comments down below. Love it, like it, think it's alright, or do you hate it? I mean, whatever it is, comment below and tell me, and I'll see you guys next time.